Welcome to another episode of Real Talk with your host, the one, the only, Shihan Terry BIRKETT.
Oh,
And me,
how we all doing?
Scott Heaney. We're doing very well, although I am melting. I got a new jacket today, as you can see. It's pretty cool because you guys know I have a green screen, so there's a green. So I'm just invisible.
Crazy.
Yeah. So this jacket came. I bought it, so it's not. Nobody gave it to me, but it's from Sora Shop, SORA shop.net. They're out of Bulgaria. So I saw this jacket.
Isn't that connected to Valery Dimitrov?
Exactly. So I think they started as mostly Shin-Kyokushin stuff, but they do Shin-Kyokushin, Kyokushin, etc. Really cool products. So I'm, they're not paying me or anything to do this. I just wanted to give a shout out to them. So very, very cool. But yeah. And good for today. It was like minus 15 today. So it was nice. All right. Look at that. Watch this when I open it up. It's gonna be very cool. Okay. What are we talking about?
Well, last time we spoke about being a student and what makes a good student. So this time you said you wanted to speak about what makes a good instructor.
Yeah. So
which is a nice add-on to it.
One of our viewers actually came up with this one who wanted to remain anonymous. I don't know why, but yeah. So they thought it was really cool that episode that we did being a student. So they thought a really cool segue, and which makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it is.
We identified
it's the other half.
We identified the traits of a student. So what makes a good teacher?
Well, you again look at the words. Are we talking about an instructor? Because to me, an instructor is someone that shows you how to do something, whether it could be showing you how to fix a car, how to play a game, whatever. Or are we looking at a sensei, a shihan, which is more a mentor, which is someone that is showing you the way how to do something, that is not just invested in you physically, but invested in you mentally as well, and wants you to be the best that you can possibly be. So we define those terms. An instructor is to me is like someone that takes a fitness class.
Yeah.
So we were looking at like your teacher, your sensei, your mentor.
Yeah, absolutely, and none of you fitness. I'm pretty sure we could come across those in martial arts as well. People who conduct their classes just like it is a fitness class or whatever, without going
There's
through the motions.
Loads out there.
Yeah. So what differentiates those, and what creates them? I'm just curious. It's a rhetorical question. I don't know if we have an answer to it.
I think. I mean, it was just our musings on the subject. Yeah. But like we spoke about a student. That student goes out and is always questioning something and is continuous, that Kaizen, constant and never-ending improvement, constantly looking for it. I think that person eventually will become a good instructor because they have a deeper understanding of things. They remember what it was like to stand there and be fobbed off with some bollocks answer to a question that they really wanted an answer to. So they've gone out and researched it. So they would be a good shihan. They would be a good teacher to pass on their knowledge to someone. What about you? What do you think about it?
It's interesting because I'm looking at it from different perspectives. So I used to be a teacher, but not of martial arts. I taught at conservatory for 3 years. I taught music. I taught applied theory, jazz, fusion, and stuff like that for guitar. And at the beginning, I don't think I was a very good teacher. It took me a while to get into it, but I think when I started getting lessons out of it, I started becoming a better teacher. So it's the weirdest thing, and I'm sure I haven't really taught karate or Kyokushin other than helping out with Sensei Steve a bit. But I haven't really done a lot of classes. But one thing I did notice and I'd be curious because you teach a lot. When I started teaching music, so I had all this background, music theory, I played and all this stuff. but none of it really came together until I started teaching.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it was about almost about a year into it, my first year. And it was really quick too. It wasn't a gradual process. It was just almost like overnight. There was a switch that went off, and it just, whoa, and all this like theory and stuff started making more sense to me because I was showing people, I was applying.
It is. You've got to understand it to teach it.
Yeah.
Really. So I think when you start teaching someone and you have to put it in a way so someone else will get it, then you truly understand it.
Yeah.
To a certain degree. Yeah. I always used to, probably from about a green belt, we used to assist with the classes. Yeah. So I used to help teaching the other lower grades then. And when you're teaching, you're getting a better understanding. You're thinking, right, next week I want to show them X, Y, and Z. So I need to brush up on X, Y, and Z and make sure I know what I'm talking about, so I can actually convey it to them so they understand it.
Yeah, I think that the teacher has to be getting something out of it too. And if they're not, then I don't think that, for me anyways, I don't feel like that's strong.
You've got to. I mean, when I do a seminar, it's not a lecture. It's not me stood out the front, blah 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 blah, telling you this is how you punch, this is how you do that. It's an experience. It's an interaction because we're working together doing stuff. When you're teaching, like say a class of people or on a camp where we've got 70 or 80 people out there, and there's no feedback, there's no interaction, then you may as well just say, like, do 100 push-ups and I'll come back now in half hour.
Well, yeah, but I actually see that happening in places, and not just karate. I see other places.
Yeah, too. It is, because we'll have it everywhere. I mean, there's millions and millions of people that do karate all over the world. Not all of them are going to be good at teaching.
But do you think can a person become a good teacher, or does it have to be like innate, born in kind of thing?
No, I think I wasn't a born teacher because I'm not an academic by any means.
Go on.
No, you wouldn't think so. I'm good at knocking people out, but I'm not an academic. But I was taught to teach. So my Shian Gary Buffton was a professional teacher. So he was very good. He was the master of getting you to do things you didn't think that you could do. So I was.
Yeah, dig into that though. I'm curious. How?
Well, I mean, like simple things. Like we'd be training and be saying things like, I think we're gonna get you to do a standing backwards somersault, and you'll be like, huh? Well, so he said, yeah, we'll work on that. And he'd start the process. He'd be like, right, this is the movement I want you to do. And then he used to stand there with his hand supporting my back, and we'd start doing it onto a mat. And then we would just do it from Furudachi, standing position, do it, and he'd be there with his hand just supporting. So we built this up. And then to the end where he got me doing just a standing somersault. So we'd be from Furudachi, he'd go, boom, and we'd do it.
Wow.
But that wasn't enough for him then, no? Then we had to take it one step further. We're in the dojo, we had a stage, probably about waist height. He wanted me to do the somersault off the stage. Now I'm like, oh, I don't think that's gonna work for me, to be honest. But we done it. We got up on the stage, and what he'd done, he had two people either side on the ground. They looped their belts through my belt, and they were holding them either side.
Oh, okay. Like a pendulum.
Yeah. Well, so mentally, I'm like, right. I'm all right. Yeah. But physically, they couldn't help me. I just put a smash straight into the floor.
Exactly.
But we done it. We did that backward somersault off the stage. And then it became, my thing. I could do it on demand. And then when I stopped doing it for a while and put about 20 kilos on, I haven't been able to do it since. But that's one of my things that I want to be able to get back. I want to be able to do a standing somersault.
But back to the teaching thing. So what he instilled the belief that you could actually do it. He made you believe you could do it.
He made you believe you do it, but it's not just, Terry, do a somersault, crack on.
Yeah.
It was incremental. We did it stage by stage, the learning process. We went through it. And each stage, I gained more and more confidence, because it's all about confidence, being able to do something. The confidence leads to competence. Write that down. That's a golden nugget. Confidence leads to competence.
Yeah.
So he was just very good at getting you to do things that you didn't know you could do. And I think that rubbed off on me then when we're teaching, because you get that little buzz out of when someone comes to the dojo, and I get it, people come in like some women and they've never done things before. And I'm like, listen, don't worry about what you can and can't do. My job here is to get you to do what you didn't know that you could do. And that's what we're going to work towards, because it's inside you. We just gotta tease it out.
So that's key, because you do see that too. A lot of people come in, especially for something like Kyokushin, it can be pretty overwhelming when you walk in there if you haven't had a background in it. And people can naturally be pretty timid anyways, but then put them in an environment like that.
Especially if there's like a lineup going on at the end.
Yeah.
And they look at it and they're like, I'm not doing that. Yeah, you're all right. Get up and do it.
Yeah. So
you'll be fine. We've got a rule here. No one ever gets knocked out in the first minute. So you'll be fine.
But seriously though, how do you, like, again, getting to build someone's confidence up like that to just, gradually make,
again, with the world has changed now. I think we've got, having students coming in is a rarity. You think back in the 80s, 90s, dojos were full. I remember the dojo I first started, and we'd have 50 students every night. There'd be a line of black belts out the front every night we were training. It was immense, and the training was hard, and the sparring was hard, and that was to kind of kill off the dead wood, sort of to say. Yeah. So people that weren't strong enough to be there, they kind of stopped coming back, and it was that natural control of the dojo numbers. But now you're lucky if you've got 10 people, 15 people turning up. So although training is
why is it?
I don't know, because it's not MMA. People want to do things. People want to do a quick fix. They want to go to an MMA club. They want to train for 3 months, get their tap out T-shirt, and then I got a cage fight next month and fight in. And you're like, oh, how long have you been training? 3 months. Okay. So they don't want the longevity of training. They don't want to train for 2 years just to get their body kind of physically in the position ready to start learning karate. They want a quick fix. Everyone wants a quick fix.
Well, it's a product of the environment. People want quick food. They want quick everything, quick access to the internet, quick everything. It's just at their fingertips. So something that's going to take years to develop probably is.
But I don't think. You look at all the top MMA fighters and the really good, like the humble ones, they've always got that long background in another art form. Whereas you look at guys that have just jumped into MMA and they've been doing it for a couple of years, they don't have that integrity of the soul sort of thing.
Yeah, again, a lot of times you parallel lots of stuff that Sensei Steve says. So he talks about that too, the exact same thing, looking at MMA guy, UFC people, the really standout ones, especially the ones who have more integrity and more humble, I guess if you would say. They come from traditional backgrounds.
They've got that traditional background there, yeah.
They do. There's a work ethic too, and it doesn't necessarily be like karate. Same, it could be wrestling or whatever the case may be. But they come from a specific pedigree of hard work.
They've trained for a long time. They've put the hours in the dojo. They haven't just trained for 6 months. They're 6 years in. So then you know when you do something for 6 months and you're like, I'm a cage fighter or whatever. But when someone's done something for 6 years, you know they've put the time in. You know they've got that stickability. You know they can stay doing it.
Yeah, and I don't think it's uniform right across. I mean, there's always an anomaly, like Sean O'Malley, who didn't do any martial arts in his past, but he went into MMA, but I think that's the thing. He approached it like that. He from what I've understood, that he trained really, really hard and dedicated for a long time, and approached it that way. But I do think you're right on the MMA thing. A lot of people think it's a quick fix. What, did you just lose me?
No, I could hear something going on in the background. I was wondering what's going on in my house.
Yeah. So how does this all turn back to the teacher thing?
Yeah, well, we would. It's kind of a, you can go down lots of different rabbit holes with this conversation, can't you?
Well, actually, I wanted to ask you too, though. This is around a teaching thing too, and what makes a good teacher. So, had a conversation with Senseis Darren Stringer and Wesley Janssen for the podcast, and one of the things that they were talking about was the hierarchy of I'm not going to butcher this, hopefully, not with belts and stuff, and people kind of expect respect.
Yeah.
And then that weird hierarchy, like even outside the dojo, you have to call me Shihan, or you have to call me Sensei, and all this kind of stuff, where you're just people. You're, at the end of the day, you're just people, and who knows, outside the dojo, that person might be better at something than you, and whatever the case may be. So respect has to go both ways.
It has to. I mean, like say with Gary. Now, I refer to Gary as Gary, but I have always addressed him as Shian.
Yes.
Which is funny because we have a very, very close relationship. Like he's like a father. But I'll address him I'll call him Gary, refer to him as Gary, but I've always addressed him as Shian. Because that's my respect for him. I choose to do that.
But that's what you're saying. That's the point. That's what they're getting.
He's never said call me it. And I'm sure, to be honest, if I called him Gary, he'd be quite happy with it. But it's just, that's my personal thing to show that that's sort of respect. I'm not going to call him Dad, but I will call him Shian.
Yeah. And that's makes perfect sense, because you're giving respect where it's due. But it has to, demanding it is kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I'm just
I think it's kind of, you don't have to demand it, but I think I look at it as in military as well, as in your rank or your grade is your ranking. So that's what you're referred to. If you're a third Dan, for someone to call you by your name, certainly in a dojo environment or a karate environment, is really disrespectful.
That's different.
Yeah. And it's the same. And again, it's that Japanese hierarchical society structure where it is very much based on servitude. And lower echelons and anything, and I suppose it's the same as British gentry. You'll have certain lords, barons, nobles going up, and
I'm a lord.
I know. Okay, you're a gay lord.
Jesus. Yeah, bye, YouTuber band.
Nice
it's been a fun run.
Gaylord is actually a British name.
I'm just messing with you. Yes.
Yeah. So the structures are there, and I think people use them. But there's too many people who they got some stripes, probably just for time served, because they've been around for a while, not particularly doing anything, but they've just been around. They've got some stripes. They're not very good at teaching. They don't really have a.
This is where I was going with this, because
you can't teach,
especially in Kyokushin. You get those 3 stripes, and you're sensei. Now, Japanese word means teacher. I mean, if you go to a junior high school or preschool in Japan, the teacher is sensei. There's nothing mystical about it.
I think that's only in Kyokushin, though, isn't it? It's only a Kyokushin thing. Whereas when you get Sandan, you get sensei. Same as when you get 5th Dan, you get Shian. It kind of goes with that grade.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it might be in other styles, but for the most part that I know of, it's only Kyokushin. But the
Yeah.
thing that I find just a little odd with that is when you become, are you expected now? You're a teacher, and it could go both ways. Somebody could really get an ego around that, like
Well,
they're third dan.
I
I'm a teacher, even though you may
yeah,
not
I'll
be.
give you an example of how twisted the thing is.
Mm.
In a previous organization that I was with, we
Mm-hmm.
won't talk about any names or
Nope,
anything.
never.
I was ready and wanted to grade for Sandan,
Mm-hmm.
and was ready for Sandan, and I was told, although you're the ability of a Sandan and you've got the knowledge of a Sandan, you can't grade for it because you haven't opened a dojo. So I was dumbfounded. Their rule was you have to open a dojo before you can go for your Sandan. And I was like, well, isn't it the other way around? Surely I should have to be a Sandan before I can open a dojo. And they were like, no, you open a dojo, then we'll let you do your Sandan. And that was when the coming of when I kind of left that organization as well. I led up to it. But I mean, that's the where's the logic behind that?
Well, there's no logic in any of that stuff. No one can tell you you're a teacher. That's my point, I guess I'm getting at. It has to be something that's a natural thing that either evolves in you or it doesn't. Like we know somebody, and again, I don't know if he'd be comfortable saying this, but we know who he is, who's a second dan who owns a couple dojos. So in our Kyokushin, we would call him senpai. That guy is a sensei, and I referred to him as a sensei because that's what he's a teacher. He's one of the best.
Well, he would be. I tell you who's bringing that back is Kyokushin Khan. Now they have it as a nidan. You could be called sensei. If you're teaching, you're called sensei.
And which is with how it
makes how it should be.
Yeah.
But it's when you say you look at militaristic terms now. You get, lance corporal, corporal, you can become sergeant, but your ranks are going up based on you learning more and leading the people beneath you.
Right.
So you only advance when your leadership skills advance.
Right.
And you have more command and more control over more people. Now, if you looked at it in karate terms, you get the shodan, but you can't really pass on your knowledge, so you stay as a shodan. And they'd be like, well, you're not interested in teaching anyone, so you stay as a shodan because you're not really interested in. I suppose you could do nidan because again, it's about that knowledge. Then, well, it's not the best analogy to be honest as I think about it because they're on separate paths. Military, as you're going up in rank, it is having more knowledge and having command over the troops. In karate, I mean, is it what are grades? Up to third dan is probably technical. After third dan, there's nothing to learn really, depending on which organization and what syllabus.
Depends how you look at that, but
yeah, it depends what organ. I mean, say the technical sides of
from
it.
a syllabus type of perspective.
Yeah, from a syllabus aspect, let's say you get everything done by third dan, and there's nothing technically to look at after third dan. All your grades after that are kind of honorary grades anyway for time served and what you've been doing. That whole thing.
It's really interesting. Actually, I never really thought too much of it until we just got in this conversation about it.
But the sad thing is, like you said before, you could have a shoulder, say a brown belt, a first Q brown belt, who's been a first Q brown belt for 10 years. He hasn't been the right face. He's missed the grade-ins.
Yeah.
He just hasn't been in the right places or doing the right thing and is not interested in grading. Yeah. And he's a fantastic guy. And his knowledge is amazing. But yet you have a shodan or a second dan. That second dan is treated with more respect. And whenever you go anywhere, other senpais will speak to the second dan. The brown belt is kind of ignored to a certain degree.
Which is what the guys were kind of alluding to, right?
It is. So that rank, kind of the belts, is kind of what gives you notice. If you we walk into a dojo now and you've got say some green belts and some brown belts, and then you've got a knee dan, san dan, and the fourth dan, you're instantly drawn to the fourth dan because he's the highest grade. You would think he's elite, but actually the brown belt is.
Or she. Stop being so sexist.
I'm only talking as in mankind, humans.
But yeah.
But then it could be that brown belt actually has got more knowledge than everybody they put together.
Well, yeah, exactly. So he, she, z is a sensei.
Let's not get into that.
Is a sensei. So they're a sensei.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, if you can teach, you're a teacher. But teachers, just because you can teach something doesn't necessarily mean you can do it as well.
This goes back. Okay, so again, now back to what. So that's a good thing too. So can someone be a great teacher without being able to do it? Now, obviously, there has to be some truth to that, because you're going to get age, or age could become a factor. You could be
but they'll have a run around. Take boxing, perfect example. Boxing. Some of the best boxing coaches were never really known boxers.
I'm going to have to sneeze. I'm going to put this on mute. Keep going. Oh, it's disappearing again. It keeps coming.
Boxing's a typical example. So not every world champion became a good coach. So you can be a good fighter and you can't actually be a good coach. And you could have someone who was a moderate fighter, or maybe not even moderate, maybe a below average fighter, that becomes an excellent coach.
Customado. Mike Tyson. I mean, he never fought, but he knew how to analyze fighters. He knew the biomechanics and how to get that across in somebody. So he also
understood the psychology as well.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. So that's another aspect of it too. Like having the proper psychology to teach, to draw the best out of somebody, or to how to tweak their mental capacity.
And this is not an overnight thing. You don't wake up and go, I'm a good teacher. This is years of study. This is why universities and the military and Quran, they have set teaching programs that's been tested over generations and decades. And we go, right, this is same as in school. Why does the teacher write it on the board and then we write it down in our books rather than them just telling us? Because when you visually see it and you visually go through the action of writing it down, you retain more information.
It's true.
They didn't wake up overnight and go, that's what we should do. This was developed over years and years and years.
Absolutely.
And it'll be the same with a coach, with your teaching, with your karate. I think the more you teach, if you're doing it properly and you're invested in it, the better you become.
Well, yeah. If you have skin in the game, absolutely.
It is. I mean, it's nervy. It's standing out.
That's a whole. Oh, Jesus, that's a whole. Okay, so Sensei Steve will call people just out, like at usually brown belt level and whatever up, right? No, and probably even maybe green belts too. But he'll pull you out. And he's man, I know I give him a props a lot, and I'm not doing it just to shout out. Yes, CKMA is the best dojo rule, but no, seriously, he is one of the best teachers. It's incredible the way he runs his classes. Granted, he's been doing it for about 80 years. Like he's been doing it since he's been doing it his whole life, but so he's really good at it. But one of the things he does, he will just pull out of the blue. Okay, you take over from here, and you're in front of like 45 people. And it's weird. He'll do it to me, and I'm used to, I have on my team at work, I have 27 people work for me. I'm used to every day doing big meetings, or I'll get called in to do a town hall in front of 50 to 100 people. Nothing. Pull me in front of those people, and I'm like,
It is. It's nervy, and when you got to count as well. When you're counting down the line and everyone's counting,
everybody
and you stood there and you're like, oh my god, it's coming to me. It's my turn next. Right, start again.
Everybody screws that one up. Yes, dude. Count, punch, count.
It is, but it's the same as everything, then, isn't it? same public speaking and everything. The more you do it, the better you'll get. So, you know, the first time I stood out, when I did my first seminar, or say teaching on a camp, and you know, when you're not stood in front of 20 people, you're stood in front of 70, 80, 90 people, and you're like, oh, this is a bit nervy. But just for me, I've just got to go through the flow with it. I've got to. There's a lot of humor in my teaching. I like to make jokes. We make a joke about things, get everybody to relax and think, and then I just go through the flow with it because I love it. I love karate. So when I'm teaching it, I enjoy it.
Well, you know what? Here's an interesting little tidbit. When I did some neuroscience classes, one of the things that we learned, and I forget the percentage rate on this, but it was really high. If you add humor to anything, not just teaching, even giving a talk or whatever, it's retained by people at an astronomical higher rate. Like we're talking like 80% and higher, where if it's just given flat. So that's it's a good thing to add to humor.
And it eases, because when people are laughing, they put at ease.
Yes, yeah.
And then everybody enjoys it more.
So to the freezing thing and for teaching, I think that one, I know for me, I want to speak for myself, boils down to confidence. Like when I'm at work and I'm asked to do a town hall with my specialty with agile project management methodologies and stuff, I can get up there and rant because I know it inside and out. I've been doing it for years. I'm good at it.
Yeah.
I'm just comfortable. I'm so questions from the audience, whatever, I could take it on. But because I don't have the experience and the confidence of karate and Kyokushin, when I get put up there, I think that's what happens. I think I get tunnel vision and I forget words. Everything happens. I couldn't even name anything.
I get it again. Experience, like they say. What's the difference between knowledge and wisdom? Experience.
Yeah.
And that's it. The more you do something, the better you'll get at it. Like I can jump in front of a class of anyone, one person, 1,000 people. Doesn't bother me now because it's on a subject that I'm completely comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And I've taught Japanese people all over the world, everywhere. You know, it's like, oh, I'm teaching Japanese people. They are karate. Oh, but I'm completely comfortable with it because of that. I'm very much in my comfort zone talking about karate.
See, and I don't feel worthy at all. It's weird. It's so weird. No, I'm serious.
You're not worthy to even speak to me.
Worthy.
But again, that'll come with competence as well. The better you get at doing something, like, you know, I'm all right at karate. It's kind of one of my things. You know, I'm okay with it. Mm-hmm. So you when you're standing there and you're like, okay, part of your sort of process would be as well, look, I'm going to show you how to do this. If you don't give me any respect as I'm showing you how to do it, I'm just going to drop you on the floor in front of everyone because I know I can. Yeah. And when you're doing something and demonstrating someone, and you get it all the time. You'll have someone that's awkward, that won't let you show it properly because they are showing that I'm stronger than you and I can do it. And I'd be like, listen, but then when you get them to understand it and say, listen, we could change this up if we want, and I'll just slam a nut into you, kick you in the groin, snap your neck. But then no one's learning anything then. So let's go along. Let's all learn together and go through it. And I think the good instructor, the good shihan, the good teacher will get his students to relax and go along with him because it's a ride. The lesson is a ride.
Yeah, you want to engage them and make them want to learn from you.
Yeah, and I've done it with some people don't want to do karate. They're there because their dad has made them be there. And you know, and if you're looking at them and no matter what you throw at them or no matter what you do at them, they're just not interested. They just don't want to do it. And I said to them, do you not want to be here? And they're like, nah. I said, well, go and sit out. Go and sit down in the back. I don't care. If you don't want to learn, don't be in the line because you're disrupting everyone else. Mm-hmm. So honestly, just go and sit down. It's fine. Mm-hmm. Go and have a sit down, and they'll go out, and then the class moves on better.
what ultimately happens to that person though, that student?
Well,
Do they
that
come
person,
back, or do they
well,
drift off?
in based on my experiences,
Mm.
when I've been teaching, say at a, let's say I was teaching at a friend's club, he would make his son go there, and his son just wasn't interested and didn't want to do it.
Mm.
So whenever I was taking the class, his son would be at the front and wasn't interested and would disrupt people. And when you're saying to someone, do this or do that, and they're just not doing it, they don't care, you're like, well, don't stand in front of me. Go and sit down. If you don't want the karate, don't come. You can't force people to learn karate.
Can't force
They got
people
to want to learn it.
Yeah.
No, they got to want to learn it. So and my attitude is, if you don't want to be here and you don't want to learn it, don't be here. I know your dad's making you come in. Will you go and sit down over there till the class is finished? And then when we finished, everybody can jump up. Yeah. Otherwise, it disrupts the class. It spoils the mojo of the class, and it'll disrupt it. And then you've got to speak to that. I mean, the dad, it was his club, so he was making the kid come. You speak to the parent and say, listen, I don't think little Timmy's quite into it, because he's not responding. He doesn't really want to do it. So, and you speak to the parent, and if the parent says, he has to come here, this is good discipline for him, I'm bringing him here to learn discipline. And you're like, well, I don't think this is the right place for him then, because this is not a military. Yeah, this is not a military school. He's not being sent here just to learn discipline. He's coming here to learn the art of karate. And first and foremost, you have to want to learn it. Otherwise, he's wasting his time. He's wasting my time, because I won't get a student out of it. I won't get someone that's going to develop into and blossom into something that's great, because he just simply does not want to be there. And if you can't engage with them at all, I mean, don't do this on the first night. This is after a couple of months. You've tried, you've put the effort in.
Now you're making me flash back to my conservatory years. I had that too. I can't remember how many students I had. I was running mostly private classes, but group classes too. But was nothing worse than the students that parents made go and they didn't want to be there. It was painful for everybody. It was the most draining 30 minutes or 60 minutes in some cases of my life. And they'd be back to back, and you'd be just waiting for that one student to come along, that one that was hungry. And I would go there with my book. I'd be like, okay, who am I teaching tonight? Oh God, thank God Timmy's there, because I don't know if I can survive. And it'd be so great when you got to that person, because they had actually practiced that week. They'd come with questions, they'd come with whatever, and it became this really cool, where I felt invested, right? But for the kids that didn't want to be there, it wasn't just kids too, because I did adult classes too, but that happened less. It was mostly with the kids. Man, that it's so hard and it's so draining. And I would do the same thing. And you try to talk to parents like, why are you
why are you bringing them to me?
Yeah.
but it has an adverse effect on you as well.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
It actually starts to make you a shitty teacher.
Yes,
because you'll be like, oh, do you know what? Crap. Sit there, do 50 fucking push-ups, and then we'll just call it quits, because you're not interested in learning. And that's why you react, and then that's not good.
Exactly.
I think we pretty much smashed that subject.
Timing's pretty good. I'm watching it. I don't want to go too far beyond.
What are we on? What's the time?
I think we're about 30 minutes.
That's a good chat. I mean, the last one went over about 35 minutes, especially when we're on a rant and we'll go through. I don't know if we've actually answered the question, but we've talked a lot about
all right, let's summarize it then. What do you think? What makes a good teacher?
Well, everything I just said in the last 20.
All right, thank you. Good night.
Listen, I can't summarize over that. When I'm going on a rant, it just comes out of me.
Yeah, I think though a few things we could say. A belt doesn't make a teacher.
No, grade doesn't make a teacher.
Yeah, I think that's important.
And for you to understand the difference between an instructor, teacher, sensei, shihan.
Yeah.
An instructor just shows you how to do something.
Yeah.
Your your shihan, your sensei is invested in you. They're a tutor for you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really well said. And I think we talked about it can be learned. You can become, even if you're not naturally a good teacher, it is something that you can evolve into.
You can be shown how to teach someone.
And someday when we get out of 1984 and we're allowed back into dojos, I will. I really hope
you're going to put it into practice.
Yeah, well, I actually was hoping to in the last year, and then anyway, that's another one.
Well, you're a shodan now, aren't you?
Yeah.
So now you're at the beginning.
But that's what I was looking for. I was so excited to, and then all this stuff. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah, but this will make
a sour note. Yeah.
All of this crap that's going on. It'll make it'll just make people that I can't wait to get back into the dojo because I've missed it so much.
I wait to get.
Make people realize.
Oh, it's unbelievable how much I can't wait to get into a dojo. It's hard with the virtual stuff for so many reasons. For me, it conflicts with my work. It also, I don't have the space now because we changed some stuff around.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about you've got a beautiful, massive dojo behind you.
Yeah, that's right. All right, that was a damn good show. Till next time. Us.
Where's
your
cat?
That's it.